Their world dying, the stranger came to ours. They were not conquerors, not invaders, but seekers. They searched for something vital, a resource not bound by time or space. A force that could sustain them as it had sustained us.
Hey, stay home!
They observed our world, our technology, our endless hunger for power. But it was not our machines that caught their attention. It was something smaller. An organism that carries its home on its back, conserving energy, moving only as needed. A perfect balance of survival and sustainability. They studied its efficiency, its resilience, its ability to generate and store energy within its form, and they saw in it a model for their own survival.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me here. I'm Abhitash Barana. I use they, them pronouns. And I'm a writer, community healer, and an artist, creative person here in Portland, Oregon. And right now I'm working at my last term of practicum before I get my master's degree in clinical psychology at the Liberation Institute. My My background runs deep, deep, deep. Like 500 years back, there was this island called Puerto Rico that got colonized by Christopher Columbus and all those folks. And that's where my family comes from Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Haiti. And my lineage is full of helpers and healers, looking back through time, and survivors. And so at first I wanted to be a filmmaker and make films that change the world, just for social change, basically. I wanted to pick up that activist mantle that had been passed down, and it led me to realize I didn't want to work in the film industry, and also led me to knowing that I have a special brand of something that is able to help people feel comfortable and open up so they can heal. And so I started life coaching, and when that became a little bit of a gray area in terms of, can I help someone with a mental health issue as a coach ethically? My heart was saying no, and you can also go get a master's degree, and enter that world of working in, the mental health field as it is, which is a deeply European mindset, westernized, colonial tool of control. Let's be honest. It's a very carceral mental health system. And so I decided that I wanted to bring my lens of liberation and ancestral knowledge, and then my own personal modern flair of communication to that sphere. So about my personal flair, I feel like the thing that I bring to all the things that I do, which is how I stumbled upon coaching, is I was a bartender, I was a bar manager, I was a skills trainer for lots of different areas of the restaurant world and the film world, taught screenwriting, and realized the best thing about all of those is like watching people grow and change for the better. And that kind of led me down this road of understanding and learning about my indigenous heritage as a Taino from Boricua, from Puerto Rico, and about all of the ways that modern psychology has co-opted, ancestral practices and turned them into evidence-based, resources for folks, which no shade to the resources, but, they should give credit where credit is due, and they don't. And so that's something that I pride myself on making sure that I do when I get into a situation where I'm being asked to help somebody. I try to know my history, and I try to stand on those truths that I've discovered and that I've seen covered up and hidden throughout academia, and I bring that energy of just like, this is something that's always been yours, that you know how to do, and I'm just here to show you like where to look. And so that's the biggest part of my personal style, is like I say where we're at, I name my positionality. I'm in part of this system, but I'm also, my ancestors' wildest dream, as they say. I also feel like I bring a certain healing to the mental health industry just by being here. I'm a non-binary trans Afro-Indigenous person. I do not believe in the DSM. I do not believe in diagnosis or labeling people as problems. However, that's the system I'm choosing to work in. And with that knowledge coming in and letting the person that I'm working with know that I have an understanding and a respect for that fact, I'm able to create this, like you were saying, this bridge between the stigma of mental health around communities that are marginalized and the stigma of using it as a community member from a marginalized background, and just get them in the room and have them feel a little bit more comfortable than they would with someone else sitting across from them asking them their deepest secrets. And I'm dedicated to like trauma-informed work and working with ancestral intergenerational trauma and also intergenerational resilience. Kind of my last little sprinkle of personal flair is like I like to inspire people to radicalize everything that's been disenfranchised from them. Like joy, like grief, creativity, art, everything, relationship, the way they love the world, the way they love themselves, the way we love each other, and just try to normalize that your very survival here in this crazy world we live in is an act of resistance, to something that we're going to get through, and like I can see that future, and I try to help other people see that too, and it's very special when it happens. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's really warming, like heartwarming to be working with clients that I'm a trainee, you know, and I get into rooms with folks that have been in therapy for years or never before, and they all have the same bad experience, you know, that I had in therapy. And I would always say to myself, man, when I was a kid, like, why can't there be someone to help me that knows anything about me, you know, or anything like, or actually can show me that they really care. I know you can say it, but it doesn't feel the same sometimes. And that's a really powerful thing to offer to folks, I think, to give them a way into doing healing work that doesn't just like teach them that they're having dysfunctional thoughts. It teaches them that their thoughts are normal and that they're, you know, sacred, and that they're trying to teach them something. So if you're not having a good time in the world, there's probably a really valid reason. You know, if you're not feeling happy, there's probably a really valid reason. And, you know, approaching folks like that instead of, here's your diagnosis, here's what's wrong with you, let me fix it, is very disempowering. And like my goal is like collective healing, collective liberation, not just individual personal healing. So everybody that I work with, including the work I do on myself with my therapists, 2 of them, is about us moving towards a world where we all heal in community together. In my current practice as a counselor, I specifically work from a position of liberation psychology mixed with ancestral wisdom, mixed with whatever evidence-based practices that I can find some value and adapt to be relevant to people are. And I work with mostly folks who live on the margins, the LGBTQIA2S plus community, elderly folks, families that are struggling, individuals, you know, and from all backgrounds that are marginalized, all backgrounds that have been hurt by intergenerational trauma, exclusion, all folks that face discrimination and are dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. Like that's who I work with now at Liberation Institute, and that's who I'll continue working with in my future practice. And I also run groups. The 2 groups that I run are, one is for other therapists, which is one of my goals, is to, you know, train other therapists on cultural humility. And so I have a cultural humility process group for other counselors who want to process, you know, how they can be better and show up in more authentic and kind ways in therapy. And then I run a group, Joy as Radical Resistance, which I'm in the process of creating a master document for, or just like not a master document, like a foundational document that anyone could grab and then run a group like that safely without, you know, breaking any ethics around like therapy or counseling or anything, because it's one of those things that's been so disenfranchised from us as marginalized people that it's really vital that we revitalize it as a way of resisting. And so, yeah, running those groups and having my individual clients learn how to heal outside of the therapy room. I tell everyone here we practice outside in the world. That's where the real work happens, you know, with your community. Yeah. So a little bit about my personal healing journey. I have lots of diagnoses over the years. One of them is post-traumatic stress disorder. Mostly due to physical trauma, emotional trauma, and also like systemic trauma. One of the things that I've been doing for the past few years, even before I started grad school and got on this path of becoming a professional counselor, was I started researching like what my ancestors did all day. What were they doing all day? How did they stay occupied? How did they, you know, live before colonization? And one of the things that the Taino people did was they worked with stone and wood all day, every day. They made everything themselves, you know. And so I started wood carving. You know, I had a small penchant for whittling when I broke my collarbone a few years ago and needed something to do with my hands. And it touched something that was really, really therapeutic for me, where I felt connected to not just like my body in the moment and to the land around me because of the wood gathered from, you know, local places, but also to my ancestors. And like, every time I think about it, they show up in my body and in my surroundings, and I can feel them with me. And I was like, wow, there's something here. And, you know, it's not really art therapy because some people's ancestors' wisdom won't manifest as a creative act for somebody. It'll be something else. But for me, it's about making objects out of wood that are usable, that are functional and beautiful and will last hundreds of years if cared for properly. And also will survive in usefulness over those hundreds of years. And so that looks like flutes and spoons and jewelry that I've made for myself with my ancestral symbols on it. And it's really healing to do that personally. And that led me to this other form of healing that exists there, where I was looking for, how do I find the patterns of the Taínos? How do I find, what their stuff that they made look like? And it's all on auction websites being sold by strange companies to God knows who, but it's not in our ancestors, our descendants, it's not in our hands. It's just there, and it makes me sad, And so like my quest to heal from connecting with my ancestors led me to this other part of healing that I want to recommend to everybody, called activism. And so I reappropriate those designs, like noticing what survived and like what stands out as beautiful to me, and then noticing that the website that it's on has a very vague, uneducated description of it. Some objects we don't know what they were for. Others are really, really clearly for, really important things, and most of them are ceremonial, most of them are sacred. Some of them are everyday objects, but now it's sacred because it's been saved and preserved. And even if I only get a photo of it on the internet and never get to find out who bought it or who sold it or where it's living, I can put one of the designs on something I make and give that to a person and tell them what that story is. And then it's like my ancestors' work living through me, which is like that full wraparound of like, we don't heal alone, Because I can like see images and feel like my ancestors' belongings and objects being taken away from them to be sold or fetishized as valuable because they were new and different back in colonial days, and how that loss has been a wound that I've inherited and that we've all inherited, and how I can start to heal that too, and pass that on to my family and my friends and my community. That's really powerful. So mixing that ancestral wisdom something as simple as making a spoon or a bowl, or carving a symbol into a rock and then holding the rock and feeling something that wasn't there before the symbol was in it. We all have that in our background wherever we come from. We all have people making something out of what seemingly might just be debris or garbage or like not something useful, making it into something useful, into something beautiful that can last a long time or be really important for a short time. And using that kind of like simple approach to, what did my ancestors do on a day-to-day basis? How can I connect with that? And how can I understand what that does for not just me, but for everyone who came before and for everyone who's going to come after? And that kind of feeling makes me never feel lonely. Like I can always connect. And it doesn't always help. Sometimes it makes me really sad. But I think that's a really important part of healing, is like feeling all the sadness and all the pain, and all the joy and all the happiness, which I think, that saying about two sides of the same coin, they exist together, and they're both vital, to the experience. And, There's like one other thing that is a part of like why I practice or why I want to do this practice that I didn't really talk about. And it's like, I feel like it's the obvious one that most people talk about, but isn't really said. But I come from a background that was like systemically marginalized from obtaining generational wealth, obtaining higher education, and obtaining like credit for the work that they do in the community. And I am on track to enter a field where I could possibly pass on some generational wealth to my kid, No one in my family's ever been able to do that, or even close, At least not without marrying a white person, unfortunately, which doesn't feel the same. And I have two younger cousins that are both women. One is a PhD and one is a master's holder. They're both in mental health counseling. And it's like we're going to be able to provide for our families in a way, doing something that doesn't break our bodies, like manual labor or being a soldier, or being a police officer, which is what my family mostly did. They're soldiers, police officers, manual laborers, and things like that, which are, however you want to call forced labor in a capitalist society noble. Those are, I guess, noble professions, professions of service, but they have a hard effect on the human body. And I get to pass on to my family, to my kid, the experience of having a parent that isn't out there breaking their body all day just to feed him. Just the act of becoming a counselor is so healing for me, because of the way while I've been in grad school and while I've been working with clients, noticing how I was never meant to be in the room. I was never meant to be this far along. Like 3.89 GPA, like how? How is this possible? I was out of school for 20 years before I came back, and I'm doing better than I thought I would, to the point where it heals that piece of like, were we not worth it? Were we not smart enough? Is that why this happened? And I knew it wasn't true, but now I can feel it. Like, we've always belonged anywhere we wanted to be, anywhere that we could help, or receive help. And I get to pass that experience on to my child, to let him know that, like, yeah, when I grew up, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I could have something like this or do anything like this to help this many people, because of what the world would tell me about myself. And now that's impossible to even indulge in anymore. I can't ever even in my saddest moment, that's not my sad thought anymore. Just giving me so much like appreciation, that I can draw on and share with people. It's like so much that I have it to share, and that's not something you're supposed to tell clients. That's not something you're supposed to say you're doing as a therapist. Like, I'm bringing psychic energy from my ancestors' wounds being healed by my very existence in this room with you, to the point where now we both have access to this magical power, called like ancestral wisdom and community. And then they feel it in their body when they're near me. And when they leave, they can bring it up again, without me. And it proves that it's real. And, evidence-based or not, I can see the evidence of how much it helps people to engage with that kind of belief, and that kind of like understanding of everything inside of us. Some of it's ours, some of it's inherited, and it's all useful for something, Yeah, okay. So yeah, the first shout out to somebody who's like second most important person in my life next to my son is my partner, Laurel. Could not be here without you. I couldn't have gotten through grad school. Most supportive person I know. And thank you. I really appreciate you so much. So shout out to you, Laurel, and to my child, Asha. Hello. One day you'll see this and be like, oh, that's me. Yeah, hey kid. And of course, to where I come from, the Bronx, hello everybody in the Bronx, we out here. And yeah, all my mentors and all the people that have helped me heal, all my elders, my grandparents specifically, Grandma and Bob, love you guys, wouldn't be here without you. And yeah, just my family back home on the East Coast. Was always rooting for me, always supporting me, always being there for me when I need them, and living their own beautiful, gorgeous lives that I get to share in. So hello, everybody. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can all support each other, and there's lots of ways to support me. You can find me on the gram, Abhitash Counselor in Training, _ between each word, or just Abhitash with a period between each letter. On the Instagram, you can follow me there for my projects and any group therapies I'll be doing in the future, and find out where I'm practicing if you want to come get some therapy. I'm also working on a book called Practically Conscious, which is a journey through all the ancient wisdom that has survived colonization, thoroughly researched and explained in terms of how it has been co-opted by modern psychology and how we can all connect to it from whatever lineage you actually come from. And this is all done through lots of research and permission from different cultural ambassadors across the healing world who have allowed me to like gather all this knowledge and share it in this way. And so they will all be credited. And it's going to be a donation-only piece of work that everybody can download for free and share because it'll help you connect with not just your culture, but everyone else's culture. And we can see how we're similar and how we're different and what that's about. And it also involves a call to action to everyone to remember that we are the creators of culture and we can change and grow and make our own new healing methods, our own new ceremonies, our own new ancestral ways, especially if they were taken or lost. We can just make up new ones, you know? I also am an avid wood carver, and you can find me on the gram there at Barana Woodcrafts, _ between those words, and check out, you know, all my beautiful, beautiful woodworking, order a custom piece, or just find me at one of the fairs around town. Shout out to the Cupcake Girls. I'll be at their fair this Christmas, December 15th, selling my spoons and wooden objects. And yeah, anything you can do to support any person of color, any person from the queer community, from the trans community, who's working towards a goal in your life. Whether that's like sending them a DoorDash meal or like helping them with groceries or just hanging out with them and making them feel seen. That's probably the best thing everybody can do, is just be there for people in your community. And if you find your community lacking in, you know, people that you want to spend that kind of intentional time with, come to one of my groups. And you can find all those on Avitash Counselor and Training Instagram. Yeah.
Yes, hello. Yes, hello. Is this machine recording? If it's recording, it's probably recording an imprint from my brain to your brain through the electricity between us. And that means there's a chance for a small message and a 4-letter word with 5 letters in it. It's called unity. Between us we can have unity. Now some people seem to feel that unity and touching and caring are a sign of weakness. I personally believe that the age of nihilism and suicide and death and depression has become the mirror of politicians and those who like to suppress young people. I therefore believe that pleasure and unity and a tribal caring and loyalty are the answer and the radical answer and the political, sexual, magical, chemical answer to the control and destruction and conditioning of all of us. So I would ask you, as I fade from your electricity, to remember you are the retina of my mind, and I can see you, and I want you to see me free and feel for yourself. Danke.